Long-awaited documents from one of Jamaica's most turbulent economic periods are now available to the public. The release of the FINSAC Commission archives marks a major step in understanding the financial crisis of the 1990s, with a key figure still defending the Commission's work. Ramon Gordon has the details.
The public now has full access to the long-awaited FINSAC Commission archives, unlocking the evidence and submissions behind the near collapse of Jamaica's financial system in the 1990s. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke, at today's launch, hailed the redacted archives as a window into one of Jamaica's darkest economic chapters, offering a rare, in-depth look at the crisis that reshaped the nation's financial landscape.
The collapse of the financial sector in the 1990s was arguably the most monumental domestic economic event in Jamaica's independent history. It led to an accumulation of debt that represented 40% of GDP. And it has taken 30 years approximately for that debt to be wound down.
The collapse of Jamaica's financial sector in the 1990s was driven by skyrocketing interest rates, with some borrowers facing rates as high as 120%. In 1997, FINSAC was set up to stabilize the financial sector, but instead oversaw the sale of many local businesses to foreign investors, which cost the country an estimated 44% of its GDP.
The accumulation of that debt led to a situation by 2002-2003 where interest and wages alone exceeded tax revenues. I want you to think, interest and wages alone exceeded tax revenue.
Former Finance Minister Dr. Omar Davies had previously criticized the government's failure to release the FINSAC Commission report. He served as minister during the crisis and defended FINSAC against critics.
The high interest rate policy of Omar and the PNP has been one of the most destructive forces in the history of Jamaica's economy. Many entrepreneurs lost their businesses. Many companies that were over 100 years old in Jamaica were destroyed and sold to foreigners. And even one of his colleagues who sits in this room today described it as the greatest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich since the abolition of slavery.
Speaking with CVM News on Thursday, Dr. Davies maintained his support of the commission, albeit with a caveat.
FINSAC was established in order to address problems, but somehow the story has been twisted that FINSAC is blamed as the cause of the problem. The real issue was the extent to which persons who had accounts, the government took on the responsibility for reimbursing the savings. That perhaps was an error.
Over $160 million was spent to produce the report, and it took over a decade to gather all the relevant information. It was handed over to the Finance Ministry in 2019. To access the archives, visit www.mof.gov.jm/FINSAC Commission Archives. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.